Thank you very much. Also, if Amjad and Subins has anything to say on this topic, you're more than welcome to come off mute and share with us.
Please bring them in.
Suhbes, would you like to go?
Yeah, I can come in. And I think this is excellent because DMU, De Montfort University in Leicester, we pride ourselves as an empowering university. And we we are also working towards sustainability. We are very committed towards sustainable development goals, and we are the UN Impact Hub for Sustainable Development Goal 11, which is sustainable cities and communities. And as part of this, the conference that I'm organizing in September is about a similar theme that we are discussing, is about kind of transforming reinventing the urban futures, creating regenerative cities for a resilient planet. So that's the kind of agenda for what coming together. So David came up with the idea of having this kind of this webinar series around this, so that we prepare for the conference that we are organizing in September. So I would welcome everybody who is participating in this webinar series to attend these sessions in Leicester, which would be a virtual as well as a physical one. So if you are joining from abroad, you might be able to join online sessions as well. Now, we have the as part of this discussion so far, we have been discussing about complexity, and so from the Institute for Sustainable Futures, we focus on the agenda of systems thinking. So we are a group of researchers who focus on systems thinking, and system thinking is about the complex systems. So we consider the complex systems that are we are dealing with, and we have been working both locally as well as internationally to address some of the city-related issues and global challenge issues as well. What I think is interesting in this debate is that we have been the tradition has been reactive, so that when something happens, we react to that. But I think now this is time to become coming out of that mode of operation from reactive to more proactive approaches, so that instead of thinking about okay, how do we deal with the challenge, we deal with the consequence of a disaster or a challenge or a future risk. Perhaps we need to prepare our capabilities, and that's where we, as universities, we can also contribute, because it's not. It's just as David mentioned, it's not a linear way of doing things. We have to think about the complex systems, and it requires interdisciplinary skills, and often we are kind of focusing on specific disciplinary skills which will not be able to solve the problems. So building that kind of capabilities, I think, is an important element in the process of addressing some of the future challenges that we are facing, and anticipating some of the challenges that are going to come in the future, and then how such skills can be embedded in the community so that they can become aware of the future, as well as prepare themselves for making some adjustments and taking actions when necessary. I think those are the types of thought processes that we need to need to consider as we go along, because the way we have been kind of working towards such challenges, uh, we need to rethink about them, and that's where I think we need some kind of collaboration with the international communities. And it's not about just one community supporting, creating and coming up and delivering. It's all the communities around the world, they need to be strengthened, and that's a big task. And that's where I think there is opportunity for everyone to contribute their knowledge and expertise. And with kind of right type of approaches and right type of collaborations, we would be able to contribute, make a difference globally. i'll I'll stop there and hand it over to Amjad.
Thank you very much, Suhbes. And maybe just to add a couple of things that have come up from this conversation so far. And I think one thing that Dr. Saad mentioned, this concept of rethinking what infrastructure looks like, right? And this idea that cities are not just simply collections of buildings, but they are living ecosystems. I think David also put it like that. And I think this is a point that we need to kind of think about, right? So and one of the frameworks that I think that has been quite useful that I've seen from elsewhere is this idea of bringing a planetary health lens to it, where we sort of look at the relationship between our health, human health, and the health of the natural systems on which we depend. So if we start to consider that, then every decision about transport or housing or green space or air quality or biodiversity or water also becomes a decision about public health. And so the question then becomes not how do we protect cities from shocks of climate change, but how are cities themselves becoming restorative for people, communities, and the planet. There's a great example from Ipoh, the city of Ipoh in Malaysia, where they've explored what they call the Donut Economics Action Plan, and basically what they're trying to do is to sort of say that a city should ensure that every citizen enjoys a minimum social foundation: health, education, housing, livelihoods, and dignity, whilst ensuring that the development remains within ecological limits. So effectively, cities should operate within a safe and just space where people can flourish without exceeding the Earth's capacity to sustain them. And I think that's a great kind of way of doing it. So we're no longer sort of saying how do cities survive shocks, but we're sort of saying how do cities enable people and nature to thrive together. Because as was mentioned, the risks that we're facing are all interconnected. They're no longer isolated, right? And so they become effectively what we at the Center for Study of Wicked Problems call wicked problems, which is complex challenges that can't be solved by any one discipline or any institution. So I think that's the first point. The second point I think is I would like to kind of add. I know Dr. Saad has sort of added one infrastructure of nature. I'd like to add another infrastructure, which is around trust. And Fayadh, I think you mentioned this in your introduction, right? That I think we rarely measure trust, but trust determines whether people believe early warnings. It determines whether communities support one another. It determines whether governments can mobilize collective action, or people trust what the government is saying. All of these things matter. And what we have sort of seen in many places is that cities, of course, fail not because hazards occur per se, but they also fail because relationships are down. So I think one of the things we need to think about is how do we invest in building trust in the system, trust in each other, so that I think this sort of goes hand in hand. And then I think that goes to my third and final point, which is building on what David talked about in the community. And I think we have a great opportunity that in many parts of our cities, many parts of the world, we have a great dearth of, or we have a great pool of young people that are there. and we don't necessarily engage or invest in them. And I think that, we need, we often describe them as leaders of tomorrow, which means that we've given them the responsibility tomorrow, not today. And so the question is that how do we engage young people who are already doing I mean, they're not waiting to be told, right? They're going out there, they're trying to see change, whether it's in climate. In many parts of South Asia, we're seeing the mobilization of young people. In India at the moment, there's a whole challenge around young people sort of getting engaged. So I think that what we need to be thinking about is how do we create those conditions for how we can bring these kind of three things together: aspect of trust, aspect of nature, and aspect of communities, particularly through young people. So when we look at a city of 2050, it's not just judged by how sophisticated its technology is, right? But also how are people able to breathe clean air, people trusting each other, or are they regenerative? So I guess my kind of final message is, let's try and redesign cities that restore trust, regenerate nature, empower communities, especially young people, and enable those future generations to flourish. So I'm going to stop there, and I'd love to hear from others as well. Thank you. Fayadh, back to you.
Thank you very much. It's very great for me as a moderator when the panelists agree with each other. So that you make my life easy. So I think just a quick takeaway that I think many organizations still devote significant effort to improving how they respond after disruption, while comparatively less attention is given to building the capabilities that you're talking about, that can reduce vulnerability before disruption occurs.